now that you've had a chance to review, especially the second half, what did you take away from that game last week?
Lot to improve on. We did some really good things in the first half. I've been doing this long enough to know that the first game to the second game, you always come in feeling like this on that first Monday morning, and you gotta be careful not to get frustrated with some of the things that did go down, with the understanding that the details got to pick up and we're going to be challenged really quickly, obviously going to Norman, and so these guys don't care who we are or what we've done, and they're trying to win national championships, which is ultimately, we want to get to that goal in the future. So we are really, excited about the opportunity and the trip. We have a lot to clean up and a lot to get better at. I think as we get in the rhythm of the Tuesday, Wednesday for the season, that our guys will kind of get in that rhythm again.
Is there also kind of a learning curve of when to push an offense, when to pull back on an offense, when to maybe go more conservative in the play calling, but also see what they can do with maybe making plays out of those conservative play calls too? We have our offense. We have our base offense that we're going to run. Every week there's like a game plan, right, that Coach Lashley puts together that's not necessarily offensive, right? That's hey, this is our team game plan to go win the game. So we're going to control the ball when we need to here. We're going to take risks when we need to here. We're going to do this in special teams. There's an overall game plan, and we've got to make sure that the offensive game plan fits, his vision for what it is that we're doing. So that's kind of an every week thing. I don't know that specifically what we're going to do versus OU. We got to run our stuff, and we got to go. We got great players to go up here and try to compete against really great players. So we're excited about that opportunity, and look forward to finishing up a good game plan.
What do you see from them on defense? I don't know can you take away a ton from a 73-0 type of showing?
Well, So we in week one we played the number one pass defense in the history of the world, right? And then now we've played a team that's given up 0 points a game. So that's tough early schedule. But OU is very good. They're well coached. They do a lot. They're incredibly multiple in what it is that they do. They play a lot of guys. You can tell that there's, they know what's going on. I don't. They pay close attention to, if you're not careful, self-scouting what it is we do offensively, then they're really big into tendencies. They do a great job of preparing from that standpoint, and if you expose yourself at all, then they'll take advantage of that. So really excited to watch our guys. They've got good players, have been playing for a long time. Some of their coaching staff I've been friends with for a long time, so it'll be fun. I've never been to Norman, so great opportunity to see a cool environment, as a football guy. Excited about that.
Were your expectations exceeded at all with how well your receiving core they made some really nice catches and fighting for balls, and is that what you expected? Were you impressed?
I thought we challenged them last Friday on a couple things, and one of those is that we knew that we were going to have to make contested catches. They had really good DBs that were in your face, and they made it contested every time. There weren't free catches just running down the field wide open and stuff like that. And so we knew that was going to be a challenge. We knew we got guys that are capable of doing that, and we challenged them. And I thought they did respond. To your point, we had 3 consecutive plays. Even in the first half, I think we had a holding penalty, and then Romello kind of got. He came from out of bounds back in bounds, and then we threw the deep touchdown pass to Jordan. They were still contested catches that were being made, even when they didn't show up on the stat book, and so in our offense. So I was really pleased with that part of it. I know Coach Likens is really obsessed with the detail of the routes that we thought got sloppy, particularly late in the game, and so we want to make sure that as those guys that they got to make plays because that's their job, but they also got to operate within the offense as we've got it drawn up, and I know Coach Likens is pushing them hard to do that.
On that point with Preston, it seems like a fine line between him throwing pinpoint passes to a receiver on a route and him throwing them up, having the confidence to throw it up there because he's confident that Bill will high point it. As a coach, where do you come down on that? And I know those are set plays and you expect that, but you know what I mean? Like, is the confidence there for him and the receiver?
Yeah, it certainly seems to be. I think Preston's done a great job with them during the off season and building that rapport with them through spring, through summer. getting to this point. One thing about Preston is he's a great teammate, and he is a great communicator to those guys about what he feels and what he sees and how they ought to do that. He's very professional in that approach. And so these guys respond, and they know what their expectation is. I think that a lot of them were recruited for the skill set that they have. This is an offense that when it's operating at its best is making those kind of contested catches, pushing the ball down the field as best we can. And so I think that they've done a great job, like I said, developing a rapport this offseason, and it showed up in the first game, certainly. I think that we're playing an elite caliber corners this week. So that'll be a great opportunity for all these guys to be showcased.
Oklahoma had a frustrating season last year. A lot of that came on defense too. Do you have history either being on staffs or playing against teams that maybe have something a little extra to prove with maybe a disappointing season the year before? And did you maybe see some of that on film that the defense really got after it?
Yeah, I'm sure I have. I can't remember a specific instance right now. They're very good. Even last year when they were struggling, they were, elite athletes that were trying to figure out a system. They're playing in a conference that presents you so many different looks that, I think they're the multiplicity of what it is that they ask those guys to do on defense sometimes takes a year to get into what you're doing. You know what I mean? They're year two of what it is that they teach and instruct and ask those guys to do. So they're, some of the things last year, similar to probably our offense, where, hey, this one word means this. Last year you had to keep reminding them what that word meant. Maybe they didn't understand it. And then when it finally clicked for them, then, oh gosh, this means that I got to get this job executed. When they understand the execution piece of that, and you're probably seeing that show up a lot, with what it is that they do. He does a great job recruiting, finding really smart football players. They line up, they're precise, they're well coached. It's going to be a great challenge for us.
When you look at the offensive line and the run game as a whole, it seemed like it was kind of tough sledding at times for Rooster. LJ had a big game, but what did you see from the run game and some of the rotating that went on the offensive line too?
Well, we ran for 200 yards, so I was proud of that. Even when you take out the really long run from LJ, we still averaged, over 4 yards a carry. So, we're trying to get to that goal of 5 yards per carry. If we can get that done, we accomplished that with the long run. I understand that, but that's part of the game, right? At some point, you got to get a chunk yard to help that average do what it's going to do. I know that Coach Justice, I think probably like all of our positions, had places where we felt like, man, particularly there in the second half, we came out, it was 31-0. It was super hot. The student section had gone home. You know what I mean? There was just like, there's this lull, I think is probably the best term. And there's no excuse for that. I still think that we took the ball, we moved the ball. We had 8, 10, 12, 14 play drives. We didn't capitalize on scoring, which is disappointing and something that we've got to be, better at if we're going to have the success that we'd like to have. But I think that he saw that there were times in the game where we could have had more intensity, right, and could have been more specific in what they were doing. I thought that they were low, powerful defensive linemen that penetrated really well and did a good job with that. And presented some challenges to us. But even, I was proudest for sticking with the calls, because we did have a 2-yard run, a 1-yard run, 11-yard run, and then, so you just kind of, as long as you keep hammering that, that's when you get to 38 carries for 205 yards or whatever it ended up being, for us. And so we still have a long way to go to get to where we want to be. I thought we did some good things early. There's certainly some things that we have to clean up to make sure that we continue to do that. It's going to be as hard to run on this team this weekend as anybody we're going to play this entire season. So we're going to have to buckle our chin straps for this one.
With playing a team that scored 70-plus points, is there an extra emphasis on the offense, maybe not doing some of those things early in the game that happened that maybe shot yourselves in the foot a little bit, to not get behind too early, or is that not something you can really worry about?
Yeah, I mean, I don't – at the end of the day, it's the execution piece is about us, right? And there may be some game plan elements like Coach that if Coach Lashley says, hey, we want to make sure that we approach the second quarter in such and such a way, then we may do that, but it's as far as the execution piece, we got to go out there. We know that historically, you take that biggest jump from game 1 to game 2. We have to do that. We have to continue on that trajectory. That's yet to be seen, obviously. And we've got to be willing to evaluate it on Sunday, when we get back in this weekend to say, boy, did we do whatever the end result of the game, did we accomplish the little things that we talked about as far as improving in those little areas, And so I think that we'll have some specific goals about executing our job that we got to make sure that we can go back and evaluate that in a manner in which that we know how to proceed for the rest of the season, if that makes sense.
And then just you have a guy on the roster who played in this defense last year. Does Corey, does he provide any insight? Do you lean on that, or do you not want to maybe rely on something like that?
I just think that OU is so multiple that I don't know you can end up tripping over some of that stuff. You know what I mean? You'll take they play so many things. If they were a 2-call defense, then maybe. You know what I mean? Then maybe you would get some insight out of that. But I don't, I think that Louisiana Tech had a kid that was on our team last year that went over there, and and so I don't know what they invested or what they didn't, but I think that you can get too consumed with thinking that that'll provide you relevant information for what it is that you've got to execute, right? They're at a different level in their defense this year, just like we're at a different level in our offense. This year, we've really not had much conversation with him about that. Obviously, he had a big game, and he's got to focus on stopping those dudes. Maybe he can provide more insight to help him with that part of it. But as far as what it is that we got going, we got to see what we see on tape. We got to know what we know about those guys, and we got to execute the things that we execute to the best of our ability.